At 2:16 in the morning, the machine beside Mara Ellison's bed began insisting that she had stopped breathing. The alarm was thin and sharp, rain pressed against the windows. A blue warning light flashed across the medical equipment that had turned half of her bedroom into something between a hospital room and a control center. Mara was awake. She was breathing. She was also furious. The private nurse had already reached for the emergency oxygen when Noah Rain stepped between her and the machine. He did not touch Mara. He did not tell her to stay calm. He stared at the diagnostic screen and saw one number that could not possibly belong there. A number connected to a device Mara had never owned. 3 specialists had given her 6 months to live. Her board had already begun choosing her replacement. Her lawyers were preparing instructions for after her death. But in that dark room, a single father with $14 in his checking account noticed something everyone else had missed. The machine was not predicting Mara's death. It was repeating somebody else's story. Stay with this one, because the smallest detail will change everything. And if you believe the truth deserves one more question, tap like and tell me where you are watching from. 6 days earlier, Noah had been standing in a service elevator with a toolbox in one hand and a final rent notice folded inside his jacket. The elevator climbed slowly through the private residence attached to the headquarters of Waypoint Dynamics, one of the most valuable medical robotics companies in Pennsylvania. Waypoint designed powered braces, adaptive control systems, rehabilitation equipment, and custom mobility technology for hospitals across the country. Its founder lived above the company she had built. Mara Ellison had started Waypoint in a rented workshop when she was 24. She had designed her first robotic hand using borrowed equipment and money from a credit card she was not sure she could repay. At 32, she had become one of the youngest women to lead a billion-dollar engineering company. At 35, a winter collision on a mountain road had damaged her spinal cord. She had used a wheelchair ever since. That was not why Noah had been called. The work order on his phone said the problem involved a respiratory monitor, a powered bed, 2 transfer systems, a chair control interface, and a network hub that kept disconnecting from the home medical server. The note beneath the list had been written in capital letters. Client requires absolute discretion. A second note appeared below it. 3 previous technicians requested reassignment. Noah looked at that sentence while the elevator passed the 42nd floor. He had been warned about Mara. The dispatcher at Allied Clinical Systems had described her as demanding. The regional manager had called her difficult. The technician who had visited the week before had used a word Noah would not repeat in front of his 7-year-old daughter. Noah did not care. Difficult people still needed functioning equipment, and he needed the overtime. The elevator doors opened into a wide room of glass, dark wood, and gray morning light. The place was so quiet that Noah could hear rainwater running through the gutters outside. A woman in a charcoal uniform waited for him. She was in her early 60s, with silver hair pulled into a low knot and an expression that suggested she had already survived several emergencies before breakfast. "You are Mr. Rains?" "Noah is fine. I am Inez Marlowe. I manage the residence." She looked at the toolbox, then at the service badge clipped to his jacket. "You were told about Miss Ellison's condition?" "I was told what I need to repair." "That was not my question." Noah met her eyes. "I was told she has a spinal cord injury and recently received another diagnosis. I don't need more than that unless it affects the equipment." Something in Inez's face softened, only slightly. "This way." She led him through a library with untouched books, a dining room prepared for people who never came, and an office overlooking the rivers that met below Pittsburgh. Mara sat behind a curved desk. Her wheelchair was narrow, black, and built for speed rather than comfort. A tablet was mounted beside the armrest. Her dark hair was cut just above her shoulders. She wore a white blouse with the sleeves rolled once at the wrist and no jewelry except a plain watch. She looked younger than Noah expected. She also looked tired in a way expensive clothes could not hide. The wall behind her held framed patents, engineering awards, and photographs of early Waypoint prototypes. On the shelf nearest the window sat an old walnut metronome with a brass pendulum. It was the only object in the room that did not look modern. It was also the only object covered in dust. Mara glanced at Noah's badge. You are 27 minutes late. My appointment says 9. I asked for 8:30. The work order was entered for 9. Then someone at your company is incompetent. That is possible. She looked up. Most people, Noah guessed, either apologized or argued when she spoke that way. He did neither. Would you like me to repair the system? Or would you like me to call my office and discuss the appointment time? Mara studied him. The previous technician damaged the chair interface. I read his notes. He claimed the interface was already damaged. Was it? No. Noah placed the toolbox beside the wall. Then I'll know when I open it. Mara's eyes narrowed. You assume you can tell? That's why they sent me. He did not say it proudly. It was simply true. Noah had repaired clinical equipment for 11 years. He had worked inside hospitals, rehabilitation centers, nursing homes, ambulances, private residences, and once in the back room of a rural fire station during a flood. He understood circuits. He understood software logs. More importantly, he understood that machines left records even when people did not. Mara turned her chair toward him. The control hesitates when I move left. The bed loses its position memory twice a day. The respiratory monitor sends false alerts at night. The transfer lift stops 6 inches before full extension. The medical hub disconnects from the hospital server without warning. Has anybody repaired the hub since it was installed? 3 technicians have looked at it. That wasn't my question. Inez glanced at him. Mara did not. For a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. Then Mara said, No, I'll start with the chair. You have 4 hours. That may not be enough. The company guaranteed same-day service. Same-day service and 4-hour service are different things. You have 4 hours. Noah removed his jacket. Then I should begin. He crouched beside the wheelchair without asking Mara to move into another chair. He told her exactly which panel he needed to remove and where he would be working. She watched his hands. Most technicians became nervous when clients watched closely. Noah had learned to let people watch. The machines belonged to them. Their bodies depended on them. They had a right to know what was being opened, changed, or tested. The previous technician had not damaged the interface. He had installed a replacement board without updating the control profile. The chair was receiving 2 different instructions each time Mara moved the joystick. Noah showed her the screen. This profile belongs to the earlier control board. How did the other technician miss that? He probably didn't open the configuration history. Why not? You would have to ask him. Would you have missed it? No. Her mouth tightened. You are very certain of yourself. I'm certain about this. He deleted the conflicting profile, recalibrated the joystick, and asked Mara to test it. She moved forward. Stopped. Turned left. The chair responded immediately. She moved in a slow circle, then returned to the desk. Better, she said. It was not gratitude, but it was accurate. Noah accepted it. The bed problem came from a damaged memory module. The lift had been programmed with the wrong ceiling height. The medical hub was overheating because it had been installed inside a cabinet with no ventilation. Every problem had an explanation. Every explanation had been sitting inside a log, a setting, or a physical space no one had bothered to examine closely enough. At noon, Noah was working behind the respiratory monitor when Mara's neurologist arrived. Doctor, Conrad Voss was a tall man with careful gray hair and a voice trained to sound calm even when delivering bad news. He carried no medical bag, only a thin leather folder. Mara did not introduce them. Noah stayed near the equipment while the doctor spoke quietly with her. The conversation was not meant for him, but the room was open and Mara made no effort to dismiss him. We need to discuss the hospice team, Dr. Voss said. No, Mara, I said no. Your nighttime events are increasing. The monitor sends false alarms. Not all of them are false. The machine says I stop breathing while I am awake and speaking. The readings are only one part of the picture. Then stop using them to frighten me. Dr. Voss sat across from her. This is not about fear. It is about preparation. I have spent 3 weeks preparing. I signed the trust documents. I updated the company's succession plan. I wrote instructions for every machine in this building. I chose who gets the paintings, the patents, the house, and the wine I cannot drink because of medication. What else would make you comfortable? This is not about my comfort. It rarely is. Noah lowered his eyes to the monitor. The doctor opened the leather folder. The progression shown in the antibody panel, the autonomic testing, and the respiratory studies remains consistent with the diagnosis. And the time? 6 months is an estimate. 5 months and 3 weeks now. Mara, I know how calendars work. Doctor, Voss paused. You may have less. You may have more. No responsible physician can give you an exact day. How generous. Inez stood near the doorway, her hands folded. Noah saw the pain in her face. Mara saw it too. That seemed to make her angrier. Schedule the hospice consultation, Mara said, but not in this office, and not before next Thursday. Dr. Voss nodded. As he gathered his folder, his eyes moved to Noah. Are you replacing the monitor? Testing it. It has produced inconsistent data, I noticed. The equipment manufacturer has already reviewed the summary. I prefer raw logs. Dr. Voss gave him a polite smile. Sometimes raw data creates more confusion than clarity. Sometimes, Noah returned to work. The doctor left. Mara stared at the rain beyond the windows. You heard him. Yes. And? And what? Most people say something. I'm repairing your equipment. You have no reaction to being told that the person sitting 3 feet from you will be dead before winter? Noah tightened a connector. I have a reaction. It just isn't useful to the repair. Mara turned toward him. For the first time, the cold expression disappeared completely. Underneath it was something raw. Not sadness. Not exactly. It was the look of someone waiting to see which version of pity would arrive. Noah gave her none. He pointed to the monitor. This unit was serviced 2 months ago. Do you remember why? It stopped connecting to the central hub. Was the sensor cable replaced? I don't know. The log says it was. Then it was. The serial number in the log doesn't match the cable connected to the unit. Mara looked at the screen. What does that mean? It may mean someone entered the wrong number. Does it affect the readings? Probably not. Probably? I haven't finished. She watched him for another moment. Then she turned away. The 4-hour limit passed. Noah stayed. At 1:30, Inez brought him coffee and a sandwich. He ate standing beside the equipment cabinet while reading error logs on his tablet. At 2, Mara took a video call with her board. Noah tried not to listen. He failed. Graham Sloan appeared on the large screen across from her desk. He was in his late 50s, with silver hair, a navy suit, and the smooth confidence of a man who had spent decades speaking in rooms where everyone else waited. Mara, this is not a challenge to your authority, Graham said. You scheduled a vote to activate the medical incapacity provision. The company requires stability. The company has stability. The market does not agree. The market does not run Waypoint. Our shareholders are concerned. Our shareholders are being encouraged to panic by members of this board. Graham leaned back. No one is panicking. You negotiated with Langford Medical without informing me. A preliminary conversation about buying my company, about preserving what you built, while I am alive. His expression changed, but only a little. This is exactly why we need to have the discussion. Because I object to being sold? Because you are under pressure no executive should be carrying. Mara's fingers tightened around the wheelchair armrest. My mind is functioning. No one said otherwise. You are about to. Graham sighed. Mara, your doctors have given you months. The responsible decision is to complete a structured transition before a crisis forces one. The responsible decision is to stop negotiating behind my back. We will continue this at Thursday's meeting. You will cancel the vote. I cannot do that. You scheduled it. The governance committee scheduled it. You control the committee. I will speak with you tomorrow. The screen went dark. Mara remained still. Noah looked down at his tablet. Did you hear all of that? She asked. Yes, do you have an opinion? Yes, she waited. He did not continue. What is it? You probably won't like it. I do not require you to protect my feelings. Your board chairman has already decided the vote. The meeting is for the paperwork. Mara's gaze sharpened. You repair machines. I also recognize when someone calls a decision a discussion. Graham had probably expected her anger. He had probably built it into his plan. Mara understood that too. Her shoulders lowered by half an inch. What would you do? I wouldn't ask the person taking my company how to keep it. She looked at him for a long time. You are finished with the equipment? The chair and lift are fixed. The bed module needs replacement. The hub requires ventilation. I'm still checking the respiratory monitor. Why? Because the false alarms don't follow a normal failure pattern. I thought the machine was defective. It may be. And if it isn't, I don't know yet. Mara glanced at the clock. It was after 3. You were given 4 hours. Yes. You stayed longer. Yes, why? Because I wasn't finished. The answer seemed to disturb her more than it should have. She moved toward the window. Noah returned to the monitor. He downloaded the raw error history, compared it with the maintenance record, and found another serial number. This one appeared in an automatic report transmitted to the hospital server 11 days earlier. It did not match the monitor. It did not match the sensor cable. It did not match any device in Mara's bedroom. Noah copied it into his service notes. Then he found the same number inside a respiratory summary attached to Mara's medical hub. The summary had been used to calculate the increase in her nighttime events. Noah read it twice. He checked the device list again. Mara. She turned. Have you ever used a Ventricare 440 respiratory unit? I don't know what that is. A portable monitor. Older model. Usually used in rehabilitation facilities. No. Were you in a rehabilitation center after the accident? For 4 months. Which one? St. Alden Recovery. Did you bring any equipment home from there? No. He showed her the screen. This report includes a device identifier from a unit that isn't here. Does that matter? It shouldn't be possible. That is not an answer. It means the central hub may be combining data from more than one source. Her face changed. Someone else's data? Possibly, it may also be an old record attached incorrectly. Could it create the false alarms? Yes. Could it affect the diagnosis? Noah did not answer quickly. That was the first moment the room truly changed. Mara moved closer. Could it? I'm not a physician. I did not ask whether you were. The diagnosis is based on more than this monitor. How much more? I don't know. She stared at the number. Hope did not appear on her face. Hope would have been softer. What appeared was fear. Mara had built her entire adult life on solving problems. A broken machine could be opened. A failing company could be restructured. A weak design could be improved. But 6 months was not a problem. It was a sentence. She had spent 3 weeks forcing herself to accept it because acceptance was the only form of control she had left. Noah had just placed a question inside that control. She hated him for it. Delete the copy, she said. I can't delete a maintenance record. Then close it. I still need to find out why it's there. No, Mara. Do not use my first name. He stopped. She looked at the screen again. I have been tested by 3 hospitals. My blood work was sent to an independent laboratory. 2 neurologists reviewed it. The respiratory study confirmed progression. You found a number in a machine. A number that should not be there. And you think that makes you smarter than all of them? No. Then understand the limits of your position. I do. Good, finish the equipment. Leave the medical record alone. Noah met her eyes. I'll finish the equipment. It was not the full promise she had demanded. She heard that. He could tell. But she said nothing. At 4:20, he packed his tools. Mara signed the service sheet without reading it. The replacement module will arrive tomorrow, Noah said. Someone will need to install it. Send another technician. I can. I prefer it. He nodded. Inez walked him to the elevator. When the doors closed, she looked at the service sheet in his hand. What did you find? I don't know. Miss? Ellison looked frightened. She was already frightened. Inez lowered her voice. Everyone treats her anger as though it is the problem. It isn't. What is? She believes that once people know how the story ends, they stop seeing the person in the middle of it. The elevator arrived. Noah stepped inside. Did they? Inez looked back toward the office. Most of them. The doors closed. Noah drove across the city in an aging white service van with a cracked phone mount and a heater that worked only when the vehicle was moving. He called his daughter from a red light. Elsie answered on the second ring. "Are you almost here?" 20 minutes. You said that 20 minutes ago. I said 30 minutes 20 minutes ago. That is almost the same thing. It is mathematically different. I saved you noodles. That is the best news I've had today. Elsie was 7, small for her age, and completely certain that any disagreement could be solved by asking one more question. She had Rebecca's brown eyes. That was still difficult sometimes. Rebecca had been gone for 4 years. Noah no longer woke expecting to find her beside him. He no longer reached for his phone to tell her something that had happened. He had learned which songs to avoid in grocery stores and how to answer Elsie when she asked questions about a mother she remembered mostly through photographs. Grief had changed shape. It had not disappeared. Mrs. Delgado, their downstairs neighbor, had watched Elsie after school for almost 2 years. She charged less than she should and sent Noah home with food whenever she believed he looked tired, which was often. When he reached the apartment, Elsie was sitting at the kitchen table drawing stars around a picture of a machine with 6 wheels. "What is that?" Noah asked. "A hospital car. What does it do?" "It takes people outside when hospital rooms are boring." "That is useful." "It also has hot chocolate." Essential Mrs. Delgado handed him a covered bowl. "Your landlord came by." Noah looked toward Elsie. "Mrs. Delgado understood. He left a message," she said. "I'll call him. You need help?" "I'm fine." "That was not my question." He smiled. Apparently it was a day for people refusing incomplete answers. "I get paid Friday." "The full amount?" "Most of it." She studied him, then touched his shoulder. "Eat before you solve the world." After Elsie was asleep, Noah opened his laptop at the kitchen table. He told himself he was completing the service report. That was partly true. He entered the chair repair, the bed module failure, the lift calibration, and the hub ventilation problem. Then he searched Allied Clinical's internal equipment database for the unidentified respiratory unit. The serial number belonged to a Ventricare 440 monitor that had been decommissioned 18 months earlier. Its last registered location was St. Alden Recovery Center, the same facility where Mara had spent 4 months after the accident. Noah leaned closer to the screen. The unit had not been assigned to Mara. Its patient field was protected, as it should have been, but the maintenance history remained visible. The device had reported serious respiratory events during its final month of use. Then it had been removed because of a corrupted network module. Noah read the note again. Corrupted network module. Incorrect data association suspected. He printed the maintenance record. The printer woke Elsie. She appeared in the hallway holding a blanket. "You said no more work after 10. I said I would try. You are bad at trying." "That is fair." She climbed into the chair beside him. "What is that?" "A machine number." "Is it important?" "It might be." "How do you know?" "Because it is where it shouldn't be." Elsie looked at the page. "Like when Mrs. Delgado found a sock in her freezer?" "Exactly like that, but less confusing." "Did you put it there?" "No, I think she did. She disagrees." Elsie rested her head against his arm. "Can you fix the lady's machine?" "I fixed most of it. Is she nice?" Noah thought of Mara's face when the doctor mentioned hospice. "No." Elsie nodded as though that made sense. "Maybe she is tired." "Probably. Tired people are not always nice." "No, you aren't." "Thank you. You're welcome." He carried her back to bed. Then he returned to the kitchen and wrote one sentence beneath the service report. External device data may have been incorporated into current patient summaries. Recommend immediate network audit. He sent it to his supervisor. At 7 the next morning, the regional manager called. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting the hub may be associating Mara Ellison's record with a decommissioned device." "Do you have proof?" "I have the device number in 2 of her summaries, and the maintenance history of the old unit." "Were you authorized to review her medical summaries?" "They were displayed inside the equipment diagnostic portal." "That is not what I asked." "The portal required me to verify data flow." His manager exhaled. This account is worth more than our entire residential service division. Do not create a problem. I didn't create it. Did Miss Ellison ask you to investigate? She asked me not to. Then stop. The data may be wrong. You are not her doctor. No, I'm the person responsible for certifying that the equipment transmits accurate data. Certify the equipment. Stay away from the diagnosis. What if the diagnosis uses data from the equipment? Then the physicians will handle it. Noah looked through the kitchen window at the gray rooftops. Send someone else to install the bed module, he said. His manager was quiet. Why? Miss Ellison requested another technician. That may be best. 20 minutes later, another call came. This one was from Inez. Miss Ellison would like you to return. Noah almost laughed. Did she say why? She said the other technician may install the module. Then why does she want me? She asked for you. That doesn't sound like her. No, Inez said. It does not. When Noah reached the residence, Mara was in the office beside the dusty metronome. The replacement bed module sat unopened on the floor. You asked me to return. I asked Inez to call you. That is usually how asking works. Her expression warned him. Then, unexpectedly, one corner of her mouth moved. It was not a smile, but it had considered becoming one. Mara placed a printed report on the desk. I reviewed the documents from my respiratory study, and the unidentified device number appears 11 times. Noah stepped closer. Across how many days? 6. Does the time overlap with your home monitor? I don't know. We can compare the raw timestamps. She placed another document beside the first. My hospital portal shows 3 severe nighttime events on March 4th. Were you home? I was in Chicago. For work? For a specialist appointment. I stayed in a hotel. The home monitor remained here. Noah looked at her. What did you use in Chicago? A portable unit supplied by the hospital. Different serial number? Yes. The room went silent. Mara stared at the papers. Tell me exactly what this means. It means at least 3 events in your medical summary could not have come from the device you were using. Could they have come from the portable unit? Not with the identifier shown here. Then where did they come from? The old unit at St. Alden is one possibility, and that unit belonged to someone else. I don't know who used it, but not me. According to the maintenance assignment, no. Mara moved toward the window. Noah waited. She had spent 3 weeks deciding what to do with everything she owned. She had chosen the charity that would receive her mother's piano. She had recorded messages for employees who had helped build Waypoint. She had written a letter to the engineering team instructing them not to abandon a pediatric brace project simply because she was gone. She had done all of it without crying. Now a mismatched number threatened to break her. Not because it proved she would live. It did not. It proved only that something in the evidence was wrong. But wrong evidence meant the certainty had been false. And false certainty was crueler than bad news. Bad news allowed grief. Uncertainty demanded strength. I want the system audited, she said. I can audit the equipment network. And the medical record? You need a physician and the hospital's data team. Doctor, Voss will say the equipment issue changes nothing. He may be right. You believe that? I believe we don't know. Mara turned toward him. Everyone keeps telling me what they believe. My doctor believes the diagnosis is correct. Graham believes my company needs to be sold. My lawyers believe I should complete a death plan. Inez believes I should speak to my sister. The hospice coordinator believes I should accept support. What do you believe? Noah looked at the reports. I believe 11 impossible entries deserve an explanation. That was all. It was enough. Mara instructed her legal department to request the raw hospital data. She asked Noah to remain for 30 days as an independent equipment consultant. His company objected. Mara solved the objection by paying them a contract fee large enough to make principals flexible. Noah's manager called him 30 minutes later. You will report directly to Miss Ellison for the duration of the contract. I thought I was supposed to stay away from the diagnosis. You were supposed to follow the client's instructions. What changed? Nothing. The amount of money had changed. Noah did not say it. He accepted the contract. The first week became a test of endurance. Mara wanted every device mapped, every update documented, every data connection traced, and every error explained before it could be dismissed. She also continued running Waypoint. She took investor calls at 7 in the morning. She reviewed engineering prototypes during lunch. She argued with attorneys in the afternoon and completed physical therapy while reading financial reports. Her body was failing her in ways she could not predict. Her blood pressure sometimes dropped without warning. Her hands trembled when she was tired. She experienced episodes of shallow breathing, dizziness, and crushing fatigue. The symptoms were real. That was what made the question dangerous. Noah did not pretend otherwise. He tested the equipment. He traced the network. He created a timeline containing every recorded respiratory event, every medication adjustment, every hospital visit, and every machine connected to Mara's profile. She criticized his formatting. He changed it. She rejected his color system. He removed the colors. She demanded hourly progress reports, then complained that the reports interrupted his progress. He created an automatic dashboard. She accused him of designing it without authorization. He asked whether she wanted him to delete it. She stared at the dashboard for 30 seconds. No. By the fourth day, Inez began leaving a plate for Noah at the dining table. By the sixth, Mara had stopped telling him when to leave. By the eighth, he found her studying the equipment map after midnight. "You should be asleep," he said. "You are working." "I'm not the person with the doctor ordering rest. I pay the doctor. That does not make sleep optional. It makes the advice expensive." Noah saved the file. "Good night. We are not finished. I am. You work for me. Until 8 in the evening. It is 8:15. That supports my point." Mara followed him toward the elevator. "You cannot leave in the middle of a data review." "I can. Watch." The elevator opened. She looked offended. Noah stepped inside. Then he saw the fear beneath the offense. She did not want to be alone with the reports. He held the door. "I'll be back at 7. "You said 7:30. "I can come at 7. "Why?" "Because we're not finished." The doors closed before she answered. The next morning, he found coffee on his work table. No note, no explanation. It was prepared exactly the way he drank it. He did not mention it. Mara did not mention that he arrived at 6:58. The days formed a rhythm. Noah worked at the residence until evening, drove home, ate with Elsie, checked her homework, and returned to his laptop after she slept. Elsie began drawing machines for him to take to work. One was a chair with wings. Another was a hospital bed that turned into a boat. A third was labeled "the machine that tells the truth." Noah folded that drawing and placed it inside his toolbox. Mara noticed it 2 days later. "What is that?" "My daughter made it." "She believes machines tell the truth?" "She believes they should." Mara looked at the drawing. Children have unreasonable standards. She also believes pancakes are a dinner food. They are. Noah glanced at her. Mara had already turned back to her screen. A week earlier, she would not have answered. It was a small crack. Nothing more. The equipment audit produced one result after another. Some were harmless. A sensor replacement had been entered under the wrong date. A software update had duplicated 2 hours of data. The hospital portal had converted local time to another time zone, creating apparent events before they occurred. Others were not harmless. 21 respiratory episodes in Mara's summary came from the decommissioned St. Alden monitor. 7 severe blood pressure events had been recorded while Mara was in meetings, where 3 people remembered her remaining conscious and speaking. The Home Hub had merged historical rehabilitation data with current readings after a software migration. Noah documented everything. Dr. Voss reviewed the report. He remained unconvinced. "The diagnosis does not depend on the home monitor alone," he said during a meeting in Mara's office. "The antibody result is highly specific." "How specific?" Mara asked. "Strongly associated with progressive autonomic degeneration. Associated is not the same as certain. No test exists in isolation. Your symptoms, nerve studies, and progression support the conclusion." Noah sat at the far end of the table. "Doctor," Voss turned to him, "you have identified data errors. That is valuable. It does not make the underlying disease disappear. I didn't say it did. You have encouraged Miss Ellison to question a diagnosis reviewed by multiple specialists. I encouraged her to question reports containing data from another machine. This distinction may feel important to you. It is important. Mara's experiencing real decline. I know. Do you? Noah held his gaze. Yes, Dr. Voss looked back at Mara. I am concerned that this investigation is creating false hope. Mara's voice became quiet. Noah has never offered me hope. No? He offered me a question. The doctor closed the folder in front of him. Questions can become dangerous when they delay necessary care. So can answers that are wrong, Noah said. Mara glanced at him. Doctor, Voss did not respond immediately. When he did, the calmness in his voice had become effort. I will request a review of the respiratory findings. I will not tell you the prognosis has changed. No one asked you to, Mara said. After he left, she rolled toward the shelf beside the window. Her hand rested near the walnut metronome. Noah had seen her look at it many times. She had never touched it. Was it your mother's? He asked. Mara's fingers stopped. How do you know? The initials on the base. A small brass plate carried the letters E.E. Eleanor Ellison, Mara said. She taught piano. Did you play? Badly, did she agree? She believed persistence could compensate for talent. Was she right? No, Noah smiled. Mara ran one finger across the dusty wood. She used that when I practiced. 56 beats per minute. Always 56. She said a person could learn patience if they were forced to hear it. Did it work? No, he almost laughed. She looked toward him. This time, she did smile. It lasted less than a second. Then it was gone. My mother died the year I started Waypoint, she said. She never saw the first working prototype. I'm sorry. Mara's face closed again. There it is. What? The sentence people use when they do not know what else to say. It doesn't mean it isn't true. No, it means the conversation is over. Noah returned to the data table. My wife died 4 years ago. Mara looked at him. He continued working. People still say they're sorry. Sometimes I believe them. Sometimes they're just afraid silence will make them look cold. What do you say? Usually thank you. Even when they don't mean it, it gets us through the moment. Mara stared at the metronome. What happened? Noah's hand stopped above the keyboard. Not today. She nodded. She did not push. That was another crack. The physical symptoms continued. One afternoon, Mara's blood pressure dropped during a transfer. Noah was helping the therapist secure a support belt when Mara's right foot moved against the footplate. It was small, a downward press. Then, a release. Noah saw it. So did Dr. Elise Navarro, the rehabilitation specialist supervising the session. Mara did not. Was that voluntary? Noah asked. Doctor, Navarro adjusted the belt. Likely a reflex. You're sure? No. Mara looked between them. What happened? Muscle response, Doctor, Navarro said. Nothing conclusive. Noah did not mention it again. Neither did the therapist. The recovery question remained where it belonged. Buried, Mara's condition still fluctuated. Some mornings she could work for 6 hours. Other mornings lifting a glass exhausted her. Noah noticed the worst episodes followed a medication delivered through a programmable pump. He checked the pump. The dose matched the prescription. The machine functioned correctly. He added the timing to his chart anyway. What are you doing? Mara asked, marking the episodes. They are part of the disease. Maybe. You dislike that word when other people use it. I dislike it when people use it to end a conversation. She watched him add another timestamp. You think the medication is causing this? I think the timing repeats. The medication controls nerve pain. I know. Without it, I cannot sleep. I'm not asking you to stop it. Then why record it? Because patterns matter. Mara's voice hardened. Do you know what else matters? Pain. Yes, you do not know this pain. No, you do not know what it is like to wake and wonder which part of your body will fail next. No, you do not know what it is like to have people discuss your future as though you have already left the room. No. She stared at him. breathing fast. Noah remained where he was. He did not defend himself. He did not soften the truth. After a moment, Mara looked away. "No," she said more quietly. "You don't." "No." "Then stop looking at me like I am a problem you can solve. I'm looking at the chart. That is not what I meant." "I know." "Do you?" Noah closed the laptop. "I don't think you are a problem. Everyone thinks I am a problem. I think your data is a problem." She moved toward the window. "That distinction may matter to you. It should matter to you." Mara's hands tightened on the chair rims. "Leave." Noah packed his laptop. He did not hurry. At the elevator, he turned. "I'll be back tomorrow. I told you to leave. You didn't end the contract." "I could." "Yes, you believe I won't?" "I believe you might." "And you will return anyway?" "Until you tell me the work is over." The doors opened. He stepped inside. Mara looked at him as if trying to understand a language she had never heard. The next morning, the contract remained active. The coffee was waiting. At home, Noah's financial problems did not disappear simply because Mara's had become larger. The landlord gave him 10 days. The repair company delayed his overtime payment because the Waypoint contract was being processed through a different department. Elsie needed new shoes. The service van developed a grinding sound near the rear wheel. Noah ignored the sound for 2 days, then stopped ignoring it because ignoring mechanical warnings was how small problems became dangerous ones. He paid for the repair with money meant for rent. Mrs. Delgado found him sitting on the apartment stairs after he received the invoice. "You look like a man planning to fight a building," she said. "The building would win. Buildings usually do." She sat beside him. "Is it the job?" "The job is fine." "That means the job is not fine. It's complicated." "Complicated pays?" "Eventually, your daughter needs certainty, Noah. I know. You cannot keep choosing everyone else's emergency." The sentence followed him to work. Mara had received another message from Graham Sloan. The board vote had been moved forward. 4 days. Graham arrived at the residence that afternoon with 2 attorneys and the expression of someone visiting an ill relative rather than challenging a CEO. He greeted Inez warmly. He shook Noah's hand. Then he entered Mara's office and placed a document on the desk. "This is a temporary transition," he said. "It transfers executive authority to you. Until your health stabilizes. You know it will not stabilize." Graham looked pained. That angered Mara more than open satisfaction would have. "I did not choose this," he said. "You called the vote. The governance committee. Do not hide behind a committee you assembled." One attorney opened a folder. "Miss Ellison, the incapacity provision requires certification from 2 physicians and a majority vote. You have 1 physician. We expect the second evaluation tomorrow." "From whom?" "A specialist recommended by Dr. Voss." Mara's eyes moved to Graham. "You scheduled an examination without my consent?" "It is permitted under the Executive Protection Agreement. I wrote that agreement after our former chief executive had a stroke." "Yes. I wrote it to protect this company from hidden incapacity. Not to remove a conscious founder, because death would be convenient." Graham lowered his voice. "No one finds your death convenient. You negotiated a sale price." The attorneys became still. Mara continued. "Langford Medical sent a draft acquisition structure to our general counsel last night. You offered them Waypoint's rehabilitation patents at 17% below the independent valuation." Graham's face barely moved. "How did you obtain that?" "I founded a technology company." "Did you think I would not understand my own security system?" The discussion was exploratory. "You are selling the company before you remove me. I am ensuring continuity. You are ensuring control." Graham looked toward Noah. "And who is this?" "You met him. I know he repairs equipment. I am asking why he is present for a confidential board matter." "He is conducting a data audit." "Of what?" "My medical records." Graham's expression changed. "Not much." "Enough, Mara. This needs to stop." "Why?" "Because you are vulnerable." "I am paralyzed, Graham. I am not stupid. No one called you stupid. You called me vulnerable while bringing attorneys into my home." He looked at Noah again. "This man is not qualified to interpret medical information. He is qualified to identify equipment records that do not belong to me." Graham's jaw tightened. The physicians reviewed those concerns. The review is incomplete. The diagnosis will not change. Then another review should not frighten you. For the first time, the mask slipped. This is not about fear. It is about preventing an untrained contractor from exploiting your condition. Noah said nothing. Mara did. Leave him out of this. I am trying to protect you. No, you are trying to make my disagreement look like confusion. Graham stood. The vote is in 4 days. I strongly suggest you sign the voluntary transition before then. It will preserve your dignity. Mara looked at the document. Then she pushed it off the desk. The pages scattered across the floor. Get out. Graham did. The attorneys followed. Noah bent to collect the papers. Don't, Mara said. He stopped. She looked down at the pages. I want to see them there. Noah returned to the table. Mara remained behind the desk, rigid and silent. Then her left hand began to tremble. The tremor spread up her arm. Her breathing became shallow. Noah reached for the emergency control. Don't. Your pressure is dropping. I said don't. Mara, she tried to push the chair backward and struck the edge of the desk. The walnut metronome fell from the shelf. Noah caught it before it hit the floor. The brass pendulum swung once. A single wooden click moved through the room. Mara stared at the object in his hands. Put it back. He did. Her breathing worsened. Noah called Inez and Dr. Navarro. The episode lasted 11 minutes. Mara refused the hospital. Doctor. Navarro adjusted her position, monitored her pressure, and stayed until the reading stabilized. When everyone else left, Noah gathered his equipment. You should go too, Mara said. I need to finish the report. Tomorrow, he looked at her. She appeared smaller than she had an hour earlier. Not weak. Reduced by exhaustion. I'll work in the outer office. I don't need anyone watching me. I know. Then leave. Noah picked up his toolbox. At the door, Mara spoke again. Graham knew my father. Noah waited. He invested in Waypoint when no one else would. He sat with my mother at the hospital when she was dying. He taught me how to read a balance sheet. When my father left, Graham remained. Her voice was flat. He always said the company was my proof that people could not decide my value for me. Noah looked at the documents on the floor. And now? Now he believes the company needs to be protected from me. That isn't protection. I know. She turned toward the window. My brother died in the accident. Noah did not move. No one at Waypoint spoke about a brother. Public articles mentioned only Mara's injury and the driver of the other vehicle. He was 29, she continued. Lucas designed the steering system in the prototype van. The weather report warned of ice. He wanted to delay the test. I refused. The words came without emotion. That made them heavier. I was driving. We reached the mountain road before the storm. A truck crossed the center line. I turned. The van went through the barrier. Her right hand rested on the chair arm. I remember the sound of the glass. I remember Lucas telling me to breathe. I remember waking in the hospital and asking where he was. No one answered. Noah sat in the chair across from her. Mara kept looking outside. My fiancé visited for 12 days. On the 13th, he stopped coming. He sent an attorney for his things. My father called once from Europe. Graham handled the company. Everyone told me I had survived. She finally turned, as though survival were a debt I should be grateful to pay. Noah understood then. The paralysis was not the deepest wound. The crash had taken motion from her body. What followed had taken her belief that anyone stayed when she was no longer useful. The metronome was in the van, she said. Lucas had repaired it for me. We were taking it to the office. It stopped after the crash. Why keep it? I don't know. Yes, you do. Her eyes hardened. He thought she might order him out again. Instead, she said, it is the last thing he touched. The room became quiet. Noah looked at the old wooden case. My wife's name was Rebecca. Mara waited. She went to the emergency department with chest pain and shortness of breath. The first tests were normal. They said it was probably anxiety and sent her home. His voice remained even because he had told the story enough times to know where it broke if he let it. She got worse the next day. We went back. A different doctor ordered another scan. There was a clot in her lung. Mara's face softened. They treated it? They tried. Noah folded his hands. She died that night. I'm sorry, Mara said. The words were quiet. Noah nodded. Thank you. She seemed to understand that he meant it. The hospital reviewed the case. He continued. The monitor at the first visit had recorded changes nobody saw because the summary marked the reading as motion error. The raw data showed a pattern. It might not have saved her. I know that. He looked at the equipment map. But ever since, when a summary says one thing and the raw record says another, I look again. Mara turned toward the dark windows. So this is not about me. It started before you. Are you trying to correct what happened to her? No, then why risk your job? Noah thought of the landlord's notice. Elsie's shoes. The grinding wheel. Mrs. Delgado telling him not to choose everyone else's emergency. I don't know how to see something wrong and pretend I didn't. Mara lowered her gaze. People who say things like that usually leave when it becomes expensive. Maybe you might. Yes. She looked surprised by the answer. Noah did not promise forever. Promises made too early were only another form of comfort. I'll be here tomorrow, he said. For that night it was enough. The setback came the following afternoon. Noah arrived to find his access badge disabled. A security guard waited in the lobby. His supervisor was on the phone. You are suspended from the Waypoint account pending investigation. Investigation of what? Unauthorized access to protected medical information. I accessed equipment diagnostics covered by the contract. Graham Sloan's office filed a complaint stating that you downloaded medical records to a personal device. I didn't. You printed a maintenance record from St. Alden, an equipment record. They are also alleging you advised Miss Ellison to reject medical care. That is false. You need to surrender the company laptop and identification. Noah looked through the glass doors. Mara's private elevator was visible across the lobby. Has she approved this? The board's legal department has authority over the contract. The board does not control her residence. It controls Waypoint's vendors. The guard extended his hand. Noah gave him the badge. He removed the company laptop from his bag. His service notes were on the device. The equipment map. The timelines. The mismatched event list. All of it. Make a copy of my work before the system is changed, Noah said. His supervisor's voice became colder. You are not authorized to give instructions. Then record that I requested preservation. Go home, Noah. The call ended. The security guard took the laptop. Noah stood in the lobby with an empty bag. The private elevator opened. Mara appeared with Graham beside her. She had been crying. Noah could tell because she had covered it perfectly. Only the skin beneath her eyes gave it away. Graham spoke first. You were instructed to leave. Noah looked at Mara. Did you end the contract? She did not answer. Mara, Graham stepped between them. Miss, Ellison is not required to communicate with you. I asked her. Mara's voice came quietly. The contract is over. Noah studied her face. Why? Because you exceeded your role. That is his sentence. It is mine now. What happened? Nothing happened. That isn't true. Graham placed one hand on her chair. Mara immediately moved forward, removing it. Noah saw the movement. So did she. Her eyes met his. There it was. A warning. Not anger. Not surrender. Fear for him. She was ending the contract because Graham had threatened something beyond his job. Noah did not know what. He also knew she would not tell him in the lobby. Return anything belonging to Miss Ellison, Graham said. I don't have anything. The printed files. They belong to Allied Clinical. They contain proprietary information. They contain equipment records. Return them. Noah looked at Mara again. She gave the smallest shake of her head. Do not fight here. He understood. I'll have my attorney respond. Graham almost smiled. A maintenance technician with an attorney? No, Noah lifted his empty bag. A maintenance technician who knows when someone is afraid of a machine number. The smile disappeared. Noah left. 2 hours later, Allied Clinical terminated him. The official reason was violation of client data policy. His final wages would be held until the equipment was returned and the investigation completed. Noah sat inside the Park Service van outside his apartment and read the email 3 times. The van belonged to the company. They wanted it by morning. His landlord wanted payment by Friday. His daughter was upstairs drawing a hospital car that served hot chocolate. For the first time since the investigation began, Noah wondered whether the truth was worth what it might cost. Not in theory, in rent. Food, shoes, stability. He pressed both hands against his face. A knock came on the passenger window. Elsie stood outside with Mrs. Delgado. Noah unlocked the door. Elsie climbed in. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" "Thinking, Mrs. Delgado says thinking in the dark makes things look worse." Mrs. Delgado knows everything. She said that too. Elsie looked at the empty space where the company laptop usually sat. "Did you fix the lady?" "She wasn't broken." "The machines?" "Not all of them." "Are you going back?" "No, why?" "The job ended." "Did she tell you to leave?" "Yes." "Did she mean it?" Noah looked at his daughter. "Why would you ask that?" "Because when you tell me to go to my room, sometimes you want me to go. Sometimes you want me to ask why you look sad. That is different." "Why?" "Because you're 7. Elsie considered that. "I don't think that answers it." Noah leaned back. "She has people around her who think I am causing trouble." "Are you?" "Yes, bad trouble?" "I don't know." Elsie placed one of her drawings on the dashboard. It showed a woman in a wheelchair beside a machine with the large eye on top. The machine held a sign. "Look again. I made this for her," Elsie said. Noah picked it up. "How did you know she uses a wheelchair?" "You told Mrs. Delgado I did? You talk loud when the sink is running. That is useful information. Can you give it to her?" "I don't think I'm allowed back." Elsie frowned. Grown-ups make too many rules when they are scared. Noah stared at the drawing. The next morning he returned the van. He carried his toolbox onto a bus and spent the ride calling repair companies. 2 had heard about the Waypoint complaint. Neither would interview him until the investigation ended. A 3rd offered temporary work 3 counties away. The pay would barely cover transportation. Noah accepted it. At noon, Inez called. She spoke quietly. Graham threatened to petition the court for emergency control of Mara's medical decisions. On what grounds? That she is being manipulated by an outside contractor. He can't prove that. He does not need to prove it before the board vote. He needs delay and public doubt. Why did Mara fire me? Graham said he would report you for criminal access and involve child services if he found evidence that you brought protected information into your home. Noah's grip tightened around the phone. My daughter never saw patient information. I know. Does Mara? Yes, he closed his eyes. She was protecting Elsie. Yes, the anger left him. That was worse. When is the vote? Tomorrow morning. Has the hospital completed the data review? No, doctor. Voss says it may take weeks. What about the antibody sample? Graham refuses to authorize independent testing through the company medical plan. Mara can authorize it herself. The reference laboratory says the original sample was exhausted. A new sample would take 12 days to process. Did anyone check the accession record? I do not know what that is. It tracks where the sample was collected, labeled, transferred, and tested. Can you check it? Not without access. A long silence passed. Then Inez said, Mara has not signed the transition document. That won't stop the vote. No, what does she want? She has stopped telling me. Noah looked at Elsie's drawing folded inside his toolbox. I need to speak to her. Security will not admit you. Can you bring her downstairs? She has a specialist evaluation at St. Alden this afternoon. The name stopped him. St. Alden? At 3. Which entrance? Noah. Which entrance? Inez told him. At 2:50, Noah stood outside St. Alden Recovery Center with his toolbox and Elsie beside him. Mrs. Delgado had a medical appointment of her own. The school had closed early for teacher conferences. Noah had no one else to call. He had considered leaving Elsie with a neighbor he barely knew. Then he remembered Graham's threat. Keeping her close felt safer. You stay beside me, he told her. I know. You don't touch anything. I know. You do not ask strangers personal questions. Elsie looked disappointed. What counts as personal? Almost everything you usually ask. A black accessible van arrived. Mara entered through the side door with Inez and a nurse. Security noticed Noah immediately. Mara did too. Her expression went still. What are you doing here? She asked. I need 10 minutes. You should not have come. I know. The security officer approached. Elsie stepped closer to Noah. Mara saw her. The coldness in her face shifted. Is this your daughter? Yes. Elsie held the drawing against her coat. You're the tired lady. Noah closed his eyes briefly. Mara looked at him. You described me that way? No. You sounded tired when Dad talked about you, Elsie explained. The security officer reached them. Mara raised one hand. He may speak. The officer stopped. Noah took out a maintenance invoice from his toolbox. The old Ventricare monitor was serviced here 18 months ago. The network module was corrupted. The technician wrote that the unit associated data with the wrong patient profile. We already know that, Mara said. The service date was 3 days before your antibody sample was collected here. She looked at the page. What does the monitor have to do with a blood sample? Maybe nothing. But the same software migration handled device profiles and patient accession labels. Inez leaned closer. Noah continued. The migration report should show whether your hospital identification was merged with another patient. It will also contain the original accession record. Can you access it? Mara asked. No, then why are you here? Because you can. Mara's eyes moved toward the hospital doors. The nurse spoke carefully. Miss Ellison, the examination is already scheduled. Cancel it. Mara, Inez said, the second physician's report could help challenge the board, or give Graham the certification he needs. Elsie looked from one adult to another. Are you scared because the doctor said 6 months? Noah touched her shoulder. Elsie, Mara raised her hand again. It's all right. Elsie continued. Or are you mad because everybody started acting like you were already gone? The entrance became completely silent. The nurse looked away. Inez's eyes filled. Mara stared at the child. No one had asked her that. They had asked whether she was in pain, whether she understood the prognosis, whether her affairs were in order, whether she had selected hospice, whether she was ready. No one had asked whether the cruelest part was being erased before she died. Mara looked toward Noah. He did not apologize for Elsie. He did not rescue Mara from the question. He waited. Both, Mara said. Elsie nodded. That makes sense. She held out the drawing. I made you a machine that looks again. Mara accepted the paper. Her fingers trembled slightly. At the bottom of the picture, Elsie had drawn 3 people beneath a sky filled with uneven stars. Mara studied them. Who are they? That one is me. That one is Dad. That one is you. Why am I there? Because Dad talks about you more than anybody else. Noah felt heat rise into his face. Mara looked at him. For once, he had no answer. Elsie pointed at the large machine. It tells the truth, but only after somebody asks it twice. Mara folded the drawing carefully. Come with me, she said. The hospital administrator refused to release the migration audit at first. Mara called Waypoint's general counsel. The administrator changed his answer. The audit was stored in an archive server. Retrieving it would require an hour. Mara waited. Noah and Elsie sat across from her in a small conference room. Inez brought sandwiches from the cafeteria. The nurse remained outside. The walnut metronome was not there, but Elsie's drawing sat on the table between them. Mara looked at Elsie. What does your father do when he is not interfering in medical investigations? He burns toast. Noah took a bite of his sandwich. Only occasionally. He checks the smoke alarm after. That is responsible. He also reads stories with different voices. Mara glanced at him. I would not have expected that. I contain surprises. He does a bad bear voice, Elsie said. It is an accurate bear voice. It sounds like a sick cow. Mara laughed. The sound surprised everyone, especially Mara. She lowered her eyes. For several seconds she seemed embarrassed by her own happiness. Elsie was not. "What did you do before the wheelchair?" she asked. Noah almost intervened. Mara answered, "I worked." "You work now." "Yes, what did you do for fun?" Mara opened her mouth, then closed it. "I don't remember. That's not good." "No, we can make a list." "A list?" "Things you might like." Mara looked at Noah. "Does she organize everyone?" "Yes, it is exhausting." "Yes," Elsie pulled a pencil from her backpack. "Do you like dogs?" "I don't dislike them." "That counts as maybe." She wrote it down. "Pancakes?" "Yes, Dad says pancakes are not dinner. Your father is wrong." Elsie placed a large check beside pancakes. The archive report arrived at 4:10. Noah opened it on the hospital computer. The migration had transferred records from 2 systems into 1. Hundreds of warnings appeared in the report. Most had been resolved. One had not. Patient identity collision. 2 profiles shared a similar internal number. One belonged to Mara Ellison. The second belonged to a man named Martin Ellis. The details were partly hidden because Noah had no authorization to view them. But the system showed his age, 68. It also showed his St. Alden admission dates. He had used the decommissioned respiratory monitor. Mara's fingers tightened around the table. "Can his information enter my lab record?" Noah scrolled. "The device data did. That is not what I asked." The audit says the identity collision affected 3 connected systems: respiratory monitoring, medication reconciliation, and laboratory accession. No one spoke. Mara looked at the hospital administrator. "I want the complete accession history for my antibody test." The administrator's face had lost color. "We will need authorization from compliance." "You have authorization from the patient." "Because another patient may be involved, then contact compliance now." It took another 40 minutes. The accession history finally appeared. Mara's blood had been collected at St. Alden on a Monday morning. The sample had received 1 identification number. That afternoon, the laboratory system replaced the number during a data correction. The replacement matched Martin Ellis's profile. The positive antibody result had been attached after that correction. Noah read the screen slowly. "This does not prove the result belongs to him." "But it does not prove it belongs to me," Mara said. "No." The administrator made a call. Then another. The reference laboratory agreed to expedite new testing. Results would take 48 hours. The board vote was in 17. Mara called her attorney from the conference room. She requested an emergency injunction based on compromised medical evidence. Graham's legal team opposed it before sunset. The judge scheduled a hearing for 7:30 the next morning, 90 minutes before the board vote. Noah walked Mara to the van. Elsie held the drawing list. They had added music, greenhouses, old movies, dogs that did not bark too much, and pancakes for dinner. Mara looked at Noah. "You lost your job." "Yes, because of me. Because of a complaint. Filed by my board chairman." "Yes, you brought your daughter here because you had no one to watch her." "Yes, your rent is overdue." Noah's face changed. "How do you know that?" "Inez heard you speaking to your landlord." "I don't need money from you." "I did not offer it." "You were about to." "I was about to pay the remainder of your contract. The contract was terminated. Improperly, then pay the company. They fired you. That doesn't make you responsible for my life." Mara's eyes hardened. "I am trying to correct damage. And I am telling you not everything can be corrected with a payment." Elsie looked between them. "Dad says thank you is easier." Noah looked down. Mara remembered their conversation beside the metronome. "Thank you," she said. He nodded. "You're welcome." It was the first time they had accepted something from each other without argument. The judge delayed the board vote for 7 days. The new laboratory result would arrive before then. Graham responded by calling an emergency press conference. He did not mention Mara by name. He spoke about corporate stability, executive health protections, and the danger of outside individuals encouraging vulnerable leaders to reject qualified medical advice. The financial news networks understood. Waypoint's stock fell 9%. Mara watched from her office. Noah stood beside the window. Elsie was at school. "Mrs., Delgado had agreed to keep watching her despite Noah's inability to pay immediately. You were right, Mara said. About what? People leave when it becomes expensive. Noah looked at the stock chart. Some do. Graham believes he is saving the company. That doesn't make him right. He believes Langford will protect the patents. They'll separate the profitable products from the research division. Yes, they'll cancel the pediatric projects. Yes, he knows that? Yes, then he is not protecting the company you built. Mara turned away from the screen. What am I protecting? If the test comes back positive again, I may have months. If it comes back negative, something is still causing these symptoms. The company is losing value. Employees are afraid. Investors think I am being controlled by a repairman, biomedical equipment technician. Does the distinction comfort you? Yes, she almost smiled. Then the exhaustion returned. I do not want my final months spent fighting people who once loved me. Did Graham love you? Mara considered the question. In the way he knew how. That isn't always enough. No. Noah opened the data timeline. We have another problem. Of course we do. The worst episodes began 4 days after your pain medication changed. We discussed this. The pump works correctly. The prescription matches. But the hospital medication list shows another drug added the same week. For blood pressure. The combination is flagged inside the equipment safety library. Mara moved closer. Flagged for what? Respiratory suppression and severe pressure drops. Why did the pump not alert? It did. Where? Noah opened the alarm history. The alert was suppressed during setup. By whom? The prescribing physician can override it when the benefit is judged greater than the risk. Dr. Voss? The record shows an authorization code. We need the pharmacy to identify it. Mara stared at the dates. If the medication causes the episodes, it could explain some symptoms. Not everything. You always do that. What? Open a door and immediately tell me it may lead nowhere. Because it may. Do you enjoy being unbearable? Not especially. You are very good at it. So are you. Mara looked at him. Then she laughed again. This time, neither pretended it had not happened. They contacted Dr. Voss. He reviewed the medication list and immediately instructed Mara's medical team to change the regimen under supervision. He did not defend the missed warning. He did not blame the equipment. I should have examined the timing more carefully, he said. Mara waited for an excuse. None came. Dr. Voss looked at Noah. You were right to raise it. Noah nodded. The doctor continued. I remained concerned about the neurological findings. But I will not dismiss the data issue again. It was not a complete apology. It was more than Mara expected. Over the next 3 days, the severe nighttime episodes decreased. Not completely. Enough to notice. Her blood pressure remained unstable. Her fatigue continued. The paralysis did not vanish. Her hands still trembled after long hours. But the decline no longer looked like a straight line toward death. It looked complicated. Complicated was frightening. It was also alive. Noah began developing a simple program to compare raw device logs with hospital summaries. Waypoint engineers volunteered after hours. Mara initially refused. They have jobs. They offered, Noah said. They feel obligated. They are angry. At Graham? At a system that mixed 2 patients and no one noticed. Mara looked through the glass wall at the engineers working in the conference room. Some had been with her since the company occupied a warehouse with broken heat. Others had joined after the accident. All of them knew the board could punish them for taking her side. They should go home, she said. They're where they chose to be. The sentence stayed with her. Noah named the program Plain Signal. Mara hated the name. It sounds like a company that sells telephone wires. Do you have a better one? Yes. What? She thought for a moment. Not yet. Then, Plain Signal stays. You are enjoying this. A little. The prototype did 3 things. It verified which machine produced each reading. It warned when a patient identity appeared across conflicting systems, and it allowed the patient to view the same raw data seen by the hospital. Mara understood immediately that the tool was larger than her case. Patients used home devices every day. Oxygen systems, heart monitors, infusion pumps, powered beds, blood pressure units, rehabilitation systems. Most saw only simplified summaries. If the summary was wrong, they had no way to know. "We can integrate it into Waypoint's home platform," she said. "We can. We would need hospital partners. Yes, certification. Yes, data security testing. Yes, why do you keep agreeing?" "Because you are right." She looked suspicious. "That is disappointing." They worked until midnight. At 11:40, Inez brought food and found Noah adjusting the old metronome. Mara looked up sharply. "Do not touch that. The pendulum is misaligned." "I know. It won't keep time." "I know." "Why keep a broken metronome?" Mara's voice became cold. "I told you what it means. You told me Lucas repaired it. Yes, he would probably want it to work. You did not know him. No, then do not speak for him." Noah removed his hand. He did not apologize for the thought. He did apologize for touching the object. "You're right. I should have asked." Mara looked at the metronome. "The spring broke in the crash. I can replace it." "No." "Okay." He returned to the computer. Mara watched him work. 10 minutes later, she moved to the shelf and lifted the metronome herself. "Can the original spring be repaired?" "Maybe, without replacing it, if the metal isn't split." She placed the object beside him. "Look," Noah opened the back panel. The spring had not broken. It had slipped from its anchor. He reset it, aligned the pendulum, and closed the case. "Try it." Mara rested her fingers on the winding key. She turned it once, then again. The pendulum began moving. Click, 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 the sound filled the office at 56 beats per minute. Mara went pale. Noah reached toward it. She stopped him. "No," the metronome continued. Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. "Lucas repaired this the night before the test," she said. "He complained that I never made time for anything that did not produce revenue." Noah sat quietly. He said when Waypoint became successful, I would regret every year I had treated like an emergency. The pendulum moved. Left, right, left, right. "What did you say?" Noah asked. "I told him successful people did not waste time regretting success." "Were you right?" "No." The answer came without defense. The metronome ticked for 7 minutes. Mara eventually stopped it. But she did not return it to the dusty shelf. She placed it on her desk. The night before the new laboratory result, Elsie ate dinner at the residence. Noah's temporary job had ended early. Mrs. Delgado was visiting her sister. Inez suggested he bring Elsie rather than leave while the engineers finished the prototype. Mara pretended not to care. Then she instructed the kitchen to make pancakes. "For dinner?" Noah asked. "They contain eggs, milk, and flour. So does cake. I would also permit cake." Elsie approved immediately. They ate in the large dining room that had not hosted a family meal in years. Elsie told Mara about school. Mara told Elsie how the first Waypoint robotic hand had crushed 17 plastic cups before successfully holding one. Noah watched them. Mara spoke differently to Elsie. Not falsely, more honestly. Children did not ask her to perform strength. Elsie did not know enough about Mara's power to fear it. She did not know enough about death to avoid mentioning it. She saw a woman who liked pancakes and had forgotten what she did for fun. That was all. After dinner, Elsie wandered toward the office and saw the walnut metronome. "Can I touch it?" Mara glanced at Noah. He said nothing. "Yes," Mara answered. Elsie wound it carefully. The pendulum began moving. "Why is it so slow?" "My mother used that speed when I practiced piano." "Do you still play?" "No. Why?" "I stopped." "That isn't a reason." Mara looked at Noah. He smiled into his coffee. Elsie pointed toward the dark piano in the corner of the sitting room. "Play something." "I cannot." "Because of your hands?" Mara flexed her fingers. "Partly. Dad can help. Your father does not play piano. He can hold music." Mara considered it. Then she moved toward the piano. Noah opened the fallboard. Dust covered the keys. Mara positioned her chair beside the bench and placed her right hand over the middle keys. She pressed one. The note sounded uneven in the quiet room. Then another. She played the first 4 measures of a simple piece. Slowly, some notes were missed. Some came late. The metronome continued. Elsie sat on the floor, listening as though Mara were performing inside a concert hall. When Mara stopped, the room remained silent. "That was good," Elsie said. "It was not. It sounded like you remembered it." Mara looked at her hand. "Yes." Elsie leaned against Noah's chair. "Are you Dad's boss? Technically, no, his friend?" Mara's eyes moved to Noah. "I don't know. Dad worries about you when he thinks I'm asleep." Noah set down his cup. "That is enough personal information." Elsie ignored him. "You worry about him too." Mara looked toward the metronome. "Why do you think that? You made pancakes because he forgets dinner. That was for you. You made his coffee before I came." Noah waited. Mara did not deny it. Elsie considered the situation. "You should decide what you are." "Why?" Mara asked. "Because people act strange when they don't name things." Mara's expression softened. "What do you think we are?" Elsie smiled. Not finished. The laboratory called at 8 the next morning. Mara answered from her office with Noah, Inez, Dr. Voss, and her attorney present. The reference specialist appeared by video. She verified Mara's identity. She explained the testing method. Then she gave the result. The antibody linked to the terminal diagnosis was not present. Mara did not move. The specialist continued. The original result could not be considered reliable because of the compromised accession record. A second laboratory had independently tested the new sample and reached the same conclusion. "Negative," Dr. Voss leaned forward. "What about the autonomic testing?" "It confirms dysfunction," the specialist said. "It does not establish the previously assumed degenerative cause." Mara's voice was barely audible. "Am I dying?" The specialist paused. Not because she did not know. Because she understood the weight of answering. Nothing in the new findings supports the 6-month prognosis. Inez covered her mouth. Noah lowered his eyes. Mara remained perfectly still. "Say it clearly," she said. The specialist did. "You do not have the terminal condition described in the original diagnosis." The room changed. There was no cheering, no dramatic cry, no sudden release of every fear. Mara stared at the screen as though the truth had arrived in a language she could not yet understand. 6 months had become no one knows. Death had become life, but life had not returned in its previous shape. Her spinal injury remained. Her company remained under threat. The symptoms still required treatment. The future was not easy. It was simply hers again. "Doctor," Voss spoke. "I am deeply sorry." Mara looked at him. He did not hide behind the laboratory. The diagnosis was based on evidence we believed was valid. But I should have paused when the equipment data was challenged. I should have ordered new testing immediately. "Yes," Mara said. "I cannot undo what these weeks caused." "No, I will assist with an independent evaluation and full review." Mara looked toward Noah. He had not smiled. That mattered to her. Everyone else seemed ready to celebrate the result. Noah understood there was grief inside it too. She had said goodbye to her life. She had watched people reorganize themselves around her death. She had learned what they would do when they believed she was disappearing. Living did not erase that knowledge. "I need a moment," Mara said. Everyone left except Noah. He moved toward the door. "You too." He stopped. Then she said, "No." He waited. "I don't know what to do," she said. "You don't need to do anything right now. I have been given my life back." "No," Mara looked at him. "You never lost your life." The words broke something. Her face folded. She pressed one hand over her mouth and cried. Not quietly. Not beautifully. Weeks of controlled fear left her all at once. Noah stayed across the room. He did not touch her until she reached for him. Then he knelt beside the chair and held her. The walnut metronome remained on the desk. Silent, waiting the board met that afternoon. Graham Sloan entered the conference room believing the new laboratory result would delay the transition. He did not understand that the transition was over. Mara appeared on the main screen from the residence. Noah sat outside the camera frame. Her attorney occupied the chair beside her. Every director had received 3 documents: the corrected laboratory findings, the hospital identity collision audit, and an internal email showing that Graham had been informed of the compromised respiratory data 2 days before he accelerated the sale negotiations with Langford Medical. Graham read the email. His face became gray. Mara spoke calmly. "You knew the medical record was under review. I was told the equipment errors were unlikely to change the diagnosis. You were told the data integrity was uncertain. By a technician. By the manufacturer's audit team. The company required stability. You used uncertain medical evidence to force a sale at a reduced valuation. I acted in good faith. You concealed the audit from the governance committee. I did not believe it was material." The director nearest him closed her folder. It concerned the CEO's terminal diagnosis. Graham looked around the table. No one defended him. Mara did not humiliate him. She did not raise her voice. She simply made the motion. Graham Sloan was removed as board chairman. The vote was 11-1. His own vote was the only opposition. The proposed Langford sale was withdrawn. The incapacity process was terminated. Mara remained chief executive. Before the meeting ended, she introduced Plain Signal. The program was no longer only a tool for her case. Waypoint would develop it as a patient data verification platform, led jointly by the company's clinical engineers and the technician who had found the first impossible number. Noah stepped into the camera frame. Graham looked at him. There was anger in his face, also shame. Noah did not smile. He did not need to win the moment. The truth had already done the work. Afterward, Mara found Graham alone in the smaller conference room. He stood beside the window with his jacket folded over one arm. "You could have told me," she said, "that the data was uncertain?" "Yes, I believed you were searching for a reason not to accept what was happening." "I was. And I believed that made you vulnerable. It made me alive." Graham lowered his head. "I did not want to watch Waypoint collapse after you were gone. So you tried to dismantle it before I left. I thought Langford could preserve part of it. You knew they would cancel the research programs." "Yes." Mara waited. "Why?" He looked older than he had a week earlier. "Because I did not believe anyone else could lead what you built." That sounds almost loyal. It was. No, loyalty does not erase the person it claims to protect. Graham looked at her. She did not forgive him. Not then, perhaps not ever. But she did not destroy him either. "You will resign from the board," she said. "You will cooperate with the regulatory review. You will not contact Langford on Waypoint's behalf again. And if I refuse, the email becomes part of a public filing." He nodded. "You learned negotiation from me. I learned what not to become." Mara turned her chair toward the door. Graham spoke before she left. "I did love you like family." She stopped. "I know," she said. "That is what makes it worse." The door closed behind her. The medical review took months. Mara did not have a progressive terminal disease. The medication interaction explained the worst respiratory episodes and pressure drops. A separate, treatable autonomic disorder explained several remaining symptoms. Her paralysis was still real. No one ever allowed anyone to describe the result as a complete miracle. It was not. Mara still used her wheelchair. She still required assistance on difficult days. She still experienced pain. Recovery came slowly, through therapy, repetition, frustration, and rest. But the movement in her foot had not been only a reflex. Dr. Navarro confirmed a small return of voluntary control below the original level of injury. The nerves had not healed completely. They had not been entirely silent either. Months after the board vote, Waypoint tested a new supported standing system in its rehabilitation laboratory. Mara helped design it. Noah inspected every connection twice. Elsie watched from behind the safety line with Inez. The walnut metronome sat on a nearby table. Mara had brought it herself. "Ready, Doctor?" Navarro asked. "No," Mara said. "That is not the same as stop." "I know." The system lifted her carefully. Her hands gripped the support rails. Her legs trembled beneath the powered braces. The chair waited behind her. Noah stood close enough to help, far enough not to take the moment from her. Mara rose. Not freely. Not without machinery. but under her own direction. Her knees straightened. Her body reached a position she had not held in 3 years. Standing, Inez began to cry. Elsie covered her mouth. Noah watched Mara's face. There was no triumph there, only concentration and disbelief. Doctor, Navarro counted softly. 10 seconds. 15, 20, at 23 seconds, Mara's strength began to fail. The system lowered her safely into the chair. The laboratory remained quiet. Mara looked down at her legs. That was 23 seconds, Doctor, Navarro said. Mara's breathing was uneven. Noah crouched near her. You okay? No. He waited. Then she looked at him. I'm better than okay. Elsie ran forward after the therapist gave permission. She wrapped her arms around Mara's shoulders. You were tall. Mara laughed through tears. For 23 seconds. That still counts. Yes, Mara said. It does. Elsie wound the metronome. The pendulum began moving at 56 beats per minute. Click, click, click. Mara looked at Noah. You knew? About the movement? Yes, I saw a possibility. You did not tell me. It wasn't mine to promise. She studied him. That may be the first intelligent decision you made. I found the wrong machine number. Second intelligent decision. He smiled. The laboratory emptied slowly. When only the three of them remained, Mara turned toward the window. Snow had begun falling over Pittsburgh. Nearly 6 months had passed since the original diagnosis. The date she had once believed she might not reach was circled on a calendar in her office. She had planned to spend that day alone. Instead, Elsie was arguing with a vending machine. Noah was returning the support braces to their case. The metronome was ticking beside her. Mara spoke without looking at him. I was ready to die. Noah closed the case. I know. I was not ready to live after preparing to die. I know. I don't know how to do this. Neither do I. She turned. You have been living the entire time. That doesn't mean I know how. Mara looked toward Elsie. She asked what we are. She asks many things. You avoided answering. So did you. I am answering now. Noah waited. Mara's voice lowered. I do not want you here because you found the error. Good. I do not want you here because I need a technician. Also good. I want you here because when everyone began speaking about me in the past tense, you continued arguing with me in the present. Noah stepped closer. That is a very specific romantic statement. I am an engineer. It explains a lot. I am trying to tell you something. I know. She looked frightened again. Not of death, of being believed. Noah placed one hand over hers. I want to stay. For how long? He remembered the first night, the early promises he had refused to make, the certainty Mara distrusted because certainty had been used against her. Tomorrow, he said. Then we can discuss the day after that. She smiled. That is an irritating answer. It is accurate. Mara pulled him closer. Their first kiss was quiet. No audience. No applause. Only snow beyond the windows, Elsie pressing buttons on the vending machine, and the old metronome keeping time beside them. Plain Signal became Waypoint's fastest-growing clinical program. Hospitals adopted it slowly at first. Then a major health network discovered hundreds of duplicated device records during a pilot test. Another hospital found medication alerts suppressed by outdated profiles. Home care patients began receiving direct access to equipment reports they had never been allowed to see. Noah refused the title Mara initially offered him. Executive Vice President of Clinical Data Integrity sounded, in his opinion, like 3 jobs pretending to be one. He became Director of Patient Systems instead. Mara told everyone she had won the argument. Noah allowed her to believe it. Dr. Voss joined Plain Signal's medical advisory group after completing an independent review of Mara's case. He spoke publicly about the danger of allowing summaries to replace curiosity. He did not present himself as a hero. Mara respected that. Inez continued managing the residents, though the dining room was no longer empty. Pancakes appeared at dinner more often than Noah considered reasonable. Elsie completed her list of things Mara might like. Dogs moved from maybe to yes after a quiet brown rescue dog began sleeping beside Mara's desk. Old movies remained uncertain. Greenhouses became a firm yes. Music returned slowly. Some evenings, Mara played 4 measures at the piano. Later, 8. She never played perfectly. Elsie never cared. A year after the board vote, Noah and Elsie moved into the residence. Not because Mara needed them. That distinction mattered. They moved because the 3 of them had already built a home and were tired of pretending it existed in separate buildings. Mara continued using her wheelchair. On good days, she stood with support. On very good days, she took several assisted steps between the rails and Waypoint's rehabilitation lab. Noah never counted them unless she asked. The world wanted a simple version of their story. A dying woman was saved. A technician exposed a mistake. A paralyzed CEO stood again. Those versions were easy. They were also incomplete. Noah did not save Mara by discovering that one machine number was wrong. He found an error because he had learned to respect questions other people found inconvenient. Mara was not rescued by hope. Hope alone would not have corrected a record, challenged a board, changed a medication, or rebuilt a future. She saved herself each time she chose not to disappear for the comfort of others. She demanded the audit. She ordered the new test. She faced the board. She allowed the metronome to tick again. And Noah's greatest act was not fixing a machine. It was refusing to treat the story everyone accepted as final. This was not a rescue. It was refusal. His refusal to look away. Her refusal to be erased. Their refusal to believe that love required one person to be powerful and the other to be grateful. Years later, the walnut metronome remained on the piano. Its wooden case still carried a hairline crack from the accident. Noah could have replaced the panel. Waypoint's engineers offered to build a perfect copy. Mara refused. The crack belonged to the object. It proved that something could be damaged, repaired, and still remain entirely itself. Every evening, Elsie wound it before dinner. The pendulum moved. Left, right, not counting down. Keeping time. And whenever Mara heard it from another room, she remembered the night a machine claimed she had stopped breathing. The morning a child asked why everyone was treating her as though she were already gone. And the man who had looked at one impossible number and decided the truth deserved another question. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and share it with someone who has ever been underestimated, dismissed, or told that their story was already over. And tell me in the comments, would you have kept asking questions when everyone else told you to stop?